I know college football just ended, but it doesn't ever end because there's always something to talk about. How about win totals and how stupid they are? Next, Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by the people over at Prize Picks. More on Prize Picks in a second. We love them and are excited to talk more about them momentarily. But Clint, let's jump in. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being a first listener. Thanks for being an everydayer. Thanks for making this podcast go. We are Locked On Bulldogs. We are your team every day, pending your team is the Bulldogs, or your team is Alabama or Ohio State, who thinks about the Bulldogs literally nonstop.
All the time.
So if that is you, then we're excited to have you here. We're talking about win totals for the 2025 season. We're talking about, is Georgia still atop of the SEC? We're talking about what are other teams looking like. There's some teams that Georgia's going to be competing against that we're going to be talking about on this list. All just as a way, not as betting advice. This is not a betting advice episode. We do those episodes, Clint, but that's not what we're doing here. We're not going to be giving out any locks.
I need some more time with this. I need to marinate on it.
I need to let the broth. I need to let all the ingredients start to come together in the pot. Everyone's going to get to know each other in the pot.
You got to start.
Right now, what we're talking about is what do these win totals tell us about what Las Vegas thinks about these teams' future success. So let's jump in. We're going to focus mostly on the SEC today, and we'll start with your Georgia Bulldogs because we know that's where you want to begin. Early win total, Clint, for the Georgia Bulldogs is 10.5 wins. Now, I don't need to remind you if you're listening to this show, because if you're an everydayer, if you're here listening to the show, then you already know that the way that the SEC scheduling is going to work this year is you just take last year's schedule in terms of the conference and you flip it. So there's going to be some non-conference differences in the schedule for Georgia, but in terms of conference play, we're still looking at the same set of opponents, still going to be playing Kentucky, going to be playing Mississippi State, going to be playing Texas, Alabama, Ole Miss, Florida, obviously, Tennessee, and Auburn. These are your SEC opponents. You're just going to take the home and aways and you're going to flip them. So,
correct.
10.5 wins, Clint, is that's what Georgia's number was this year.
Yep.
We all know they fell short of that number this year. It's interesting to me that this number did not go down. I think the overwhelming narrative around Georgia this offseason is going to be Georgia got worse this offseason. We'll talk about that as the offseason goes along, Clint. That is going to be the overwhelming narrative heading into this offseason.
Narrative from whom, Daniel?
That'd be the national media, Clint.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have any feelings surrounding that, but especially given the fact that Carson Beck did not go to the NFL. Honestly, even though it doesn't mean anything different, if Carson Beck had gone to the NFL and Gunnar Stockton had come in, I think you'd hear a lot of national media people, because they're lazy, saying this is just the next in line. It's the next Georgia quarterback. He's been waiting in the wings. He's ascended to his role. But not now, because they're lazy. The story's going to be Georgia's good quarterback leaves to go to Miami. Georgia is left with Gunnar Stockton, meaning
crumbs.
That's a downgrade for Georgia. That's going to be the narrative. So I'm honestly surprised this number did not go down. I'll just go ahead and tell you, Clint, this is an incredibly difficult schedule that we're looking at next year as well.
Because no matter what you have at home, there's still good teams coming to your home. I get you get a little benefit, but
yes,
these still dang good teams.
These are very good teams. You are taking the Clemson game off of the schedule. And so that is the notable difference in these two schedules. So it is not only because of the home and away, but because of the lack of a Clemson game. Georgia Tech is by far the only non-conference opponent with any weight or meaning whatsoever.
Correct.
As opposed to the neutral site game against Clemson to start the season. So I will grant you the schedule is easier.
Sure.
But I think with the talk around Georgia getting worse, I'm surprised this number didn't come down. What do you make of it?
It's really shocking to me. 10.5. I thought this was going to be something like 9, truth be told, because of exactly what you said. The perception from those outside the program are you're losing Jalen Walker. He's going to go with Michael Williams, Malachi Starks.
Yep.
Guys all gone. Okay, so possible. I don't think Malachi sneaks in the first round, but high draft grade guys. You mentioned it. Carson Beck gone. Trevor Etienne decides, hey, I'm going to the NFL as well. We'll see y'all later.
Yeah.
Next inline pass rusher on the edge. He's peacing out. He's gone. And you start looking around and you start saying to yourself, oh man, they've lost a couple pieces. They were barely hanging on in these games. Yeah, I was thinking this was going to be 9. And Daniel, like you said, this schedule that comes out, I mean, we go to Tennessee, which we all know you're either catching something that you're not going to see a doctor for and describe something as less than advantageous when you use the restroom.
Yeah. Mustard could be an ointment for it. We don't know.
I don't know. Some people over in Knoxville think that it is. You're going to have things thrown at you, all manner of things. That's going to be hard. Like you said, Alabama, Kentucky, Auburn, Kentucky. I'm not too scared of this coming.
Georgia fans are not ready to hear this, Clint. Add Georgia Tech to end the season.
Because
I'm not saying that Georgia's not going to have a bunch of fans there, because they will. Georgia fans will buy those tickets. But there's not going to be 93,000 Georgia fans there. It's not going to be the environment that it was this past year. Georgia Tech to end the season, Clint. That's a real game.
It's a real game. Brent Key wants to beat Georgia as much as Moore at Michigan wants to beat Ohio State. Just straight up. And he's done that 4 years. Kirby has staved off Brent Key. But y'all, I'm here to tell you, one of these years in the very near future, we're taking an L against Georgia Tech. Like I don't want to say that. It's going to happen.
It very well might happen this year. I'm not here calling my shot, but I'm trying to tell you, as Clint just did, the days of chalking that game up to an automatic W are gone. It is just the facts of the matter. Georgia, the law of averages dictates that Georgia Tech will be a feisty enough team that you will catch them in a bad year, at a bad time, in a bad spot, and they will beat you. Let's hope it doesn't mean a lack of a playoff berth for Georgia when they do, but that is the truth of the matter when Brent Key's there.
So the quick thoughts, we did this again. We're not doing this, just quick thoughts, not in depth right now. We're going to get to it later. I think some games that we could lose. I say it every year, and people make fun of me every year because it hasn't been a contest in many years. But Auburn is better this year, and we travel there. They are better this year.
Yeah.
And we travel there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that as tough as going to Alabama? No, it's not. But it is a real game. It's
a real game. And the next one, Texas. Texas is coming to our place. I get it. I understand. I know. They will be forced. Steve Sarkisian will be forced to play the better quarterback that he should have been playing the entire time.
You hate to see that.
And so those are my two. So if that's the case, Daniel, 10.5 gets a little dicey for me. It's shocking that Vegas still has this. By the way, Vegas does a pretty good job at doing these predictions. And so you have to jump on it when you see a couple of them, which means we're not ready to tell you what we think Georgia will do, but other SEC squads are out there. And so, Daniel, let's get to them and tell the people what we think about those. But first, these. And these are, in fact, prize picks. Daniel, prize picks, pretty simple. It's pretty easy. Let's just get down to it.
Okay,
Daily
talk
fantasy.
Me through it.
Okay,
talk me through it.
You like choosing things. And if I gave you one or two choices, it's pretty dang simple. You can get with this or you can get with that. Some may say, Daniel, some podcast people have said. Whether it's playoff or regular season, prize picks made it easier than ever to get in with this or that. It's playoff time. And right now you pick more or less on 2 players. And if you hit, you can win up to $1,000 on your cash. It's daily fantasy made easy. For example, if you're going to go ahead and say to yourself, hey, I really, really think that Josh Allen's going to rush for 65 yards or more. Boom, put it in there. See what happens. I really think Travis Kelce is going to be mentioned in 15,000 ads. Put it in there. I'm sure they have daily fantasy like that. I don't know. Get your winnings fast, sometimes as little as 15 minutes. Ready to run your game this football season? Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with Prize Picks. Prize Picks, run your game.
All right, we talked about Georgia's win total. Where do you want to go next, Clint? Let's start at the top.
Okay.
The SEC teams that are projected to win the most games. And so let's go to Texas. Same win total as Georgia, 10.5 points. You mentioned them. Arch Manning will be the quarterback. Quinn Ewers off to the NFL. Quinn Ewers off to the bench in the NFL to get some GM fired. That's what Quinn Ewers is going to do. Get some general manager fired because he ain't it.
No.
Arch Manning will be in. Texas will be reloaded.
Yeah.
Texas will be good. Sarkisian is a great recruiter. They will continue to have elite talent. They will continue to spend NIL money. They will continue to make it difficult on Georgia to be a dominant roster in college football. And they're projected to win 10.5 games. Now, here's what's interesting to me about this, Clint. Not all 10.5s are created equal. We mentioned Georgia's schedule. It's easier than last year. Texas's schedule, if you can recall, was the easiest SEC schedule that has ever, and I mean ever, been conceived of by a human being. Their toughest game last year in the SEC regular season, other than the loss to Georgia, was against Vanderbilt.
Oh, no.
Vanderbilt, number one, ain't going to be the same squad that they were this year. There was a bit of a flash in the pan there. Texas plays all the bottom feeders in the SEC. Is Oklahoma going to rise to power again? Honestly, SEC fans better hope so because, A, this is Brent Venables' last year. If he doesn't, and B, Texas needs somebody on their schedule that's worth a darn. 10.5 wins for Texas and 10.5 wins for Georgia definitively tells me that Las Vegas on a neutral site would favor Georgia over Texas in an SEC championship game type situation. Not only that, Texas coming to Athens. If Texas's win total is 10.5, Clint. I am here to tell you right now that Las Vegas is chalking that game in Athens up as a loss.
Yes, which is wild because the other games that are on the schedule that you look at and could be problematic. It is Georgia at Florida. Maybe they're thinking more of DJ Lagway. Maybe they're thinking more on the road in the swamp. But the biggest game is the one to start the season, Ohio State. That's the game that they're saying. L to Ohio State at Ohio State and L to Georgia because I don't think they give that much credibility to DJ Lagway becoming who everybody thinks he is already, and he's not, by the way. Just really quick note on that. But Texas is going to be a good squad. They're going to have good offense. They're going to have good running game back, and it doesn't really matter who the receivers are, in my opinion. With Arch Manning back there, he's going to be doing just fine. The comp on him so far, Andrew Luck, and he did just fine at Stanford, although he had some good pieces around him, clearly NFL talent. But Texas at 10.5 do you think it's more of a lock for the over or less of a lock compared to Georgia?
No, you cannot lock the over. They have road games at Ohio State and Georgia. You cannot lock the over for Texas with road games at Ohio State and Georgia. You say what you want about Ohio State. Ohio State's going to be really good next year. Do you know how I know? Because I don't know who the quarterback is going to be, but I know who Jeremiah Smith is going to be. They're going to be really good next year.
When you only do one high safety and man covers the entire game and it doesn't work, you're an idiot. Why? I can't. Sorry.
You're not wise. All I needed was a cover. All I needed was for you to let the clock run out.
That's all you had to do.
But you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that, Notre Dame. I'm so freaking mad. That was the worst way to get beat on a cover
Especially that first half. My gosh.
Do I need to remind you, Clint? He doinked a field goal.
He doinked the field
Shortly before that.
goal. Oh,
Did that come back to haunt him? Did that? What's 11 plus a field goal? Oh, it's 8. There you go. Okay.
Carry the one.
No, you cannot lock up the over for Texas. If you gave me over 7 SEC wins, certainly 6.5, I'm going to absolutely pounce on it.
Hammer that.
But if you gave me over 7 SEC wins, I think worst case scenario is you're going to push there, because I think they might beat Georgia next year in Athens. Certainly. That would be a bet I'd rather take than the over 10.5 when you've got both of those games early in the season. So those are my thoughts on that.
I believe that. I like that. Okay, the next highest SEC win total that we have, tied with Ole Miss and Alabama at 9. Daniel, 9 wins for Ole Miss, 9 wins for Alabama. And this is a little bit shocking to me, because not because it's the 9 number, but because these are the next 2 teams highest on this list with 9. I think that's what's shocking to me.
You're saying the 3 teams that Georgia plays are the 3 highest win totals other than Georgia in the conference.
This is what I'm trying to tell you.
No, but sure, go off. I mean, Texas has a tough schedule too. Who's going to be a better team next year, Clint? Ole Miss or Alabama? Simple question.
This is actually wildly interesting, because who's the quarterback for Alabama?
These are the things one must consider. Who's the quarterback for Ole Miss?
Now, you could tell me Simmons was it. He came in for a drive against Georgia and looked outstanding. But, of course, Jackson Dart looked outstanding.
Yeah.
Jackson Dart, by the way, it's rumored to be round 1 Will Levis ascension in the first round.
Sure.
Talk about GMs just hating their jobs. Anyway, I digress. It has to be, for me, Alabama is going to be a better team compared to this year's team. Ole Miss, I think, has peaked. Lane has to do some heavy lifting. I actually do think Simmons is a good athlete and a good prospect, yet to be seen what he can do with a full onslaught. They have more kids coming to transfer portal. They have some left over from last year's team, but last year's team was really, really Lane's hoorah. He went for broke in the offseason, the transfer portal, had some guys in-house develop. I think if I'm looking at it, Alabama has lost a ton of talent, Daniel, but that was an absolute poison pill team last year because of Milroe's up and down season. Like, I don't know what they're going to have at quarterback. You have to utilize him better than you did Milroe, because I don't know if I had Milroe, I don't care. People can mock me all day long. We're running wing T the entire game, and you're not going to stop me.
It's the answer to the question that I asked is Alabama. And here's the reason why. Ole Miss will definitely have a downgrade at quarterback next year. Alabama won't definitely have a downgrade at quarterback next year. They will definitely have an upgrade at quarterback next year. Whoever it is will be better in that system than Jalen Milroe. Do you know why? Because he will be a person whose skill set is made to fit the system that Kalen DeBoer wants to run.
Interesting.
And when you try to squeeze a square peg into a round hole, you go 9-3 and you miss the college football playoff and you cry about it. That's what happens.
It's really wild. If only there were 2 guys that have microphones that talked about the Kalen DeBoer marriage to Justin.
I don't know what.
Okay.
I don't know what you're referencing. There.
It's wild. We're going to come back. We're going to finish off with some other interesting notes from the SEC as well as college football season win totals. But first, these. And these are, in fact, Talkspace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting in sessions a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where Talkspace comes in. Talkspace, leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting what you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With Talkspace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can always have sessions from the comfort of your home, even message your therapist between appointments. Plus, Talkspace is covered by your insurance plans. And for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's better and easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener, you get $80 off your first month at Talkspace when you go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege. Enter promo code SPACE80 to match your licensed therapist today. Go to Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege. Enter promo SPACE80 and get $80 off your first month. Show your support for the show. That's Talkspace.com/LockedOnCollege. Promo code SPACE80. Daniel.
Yes.
Let us continue going down the list. SEC schools that have season win totals out already. A couple notable ones. LSU, 8.5. We're going to talk in another episode about why that's actually a funny number compared to what everybody else is thinking, because Nussmeier, I've been told, is the best quarterback in college football next year. Daniel?
Yeah.
And he's on a team that might only win 8 games as the best quarterback in all of college football.
Yeah.
That's intriguing to me. That tells me a whole lot of Brian Kelly and the rest of the team.
It's intriguing.
A&M at 8, which okay.
I won't get into it with A&M anymore. Like you are who you are.
Yes.
You'll always be who you'll always be.
That's right.
And there's nothing that you could do to change that. Let's get to Florida, Clint.
Okay. Florida at 6.5.
Yeah.
Daniel, I'm a bit shocked by this.
Yeah. Florida at 6.5. Now, you're shocked because you think that this number is too
low. Daniel?
You think Florida's going to get better?
Yes.
Because what you just said about Steve Sarkisian is also true about Billy Napier. He's going to be forced to play the better quarterback all year instead of be an idiot and play the worst quarterback.
I just can't with people.
I'm not sure that DJ Lagway is it, just like I'm not sure that Nico is it, the way the Tennessee fans want him to be.
He's not it, by the way. He's not it.
I'm here to tell you, he a heck of a lot better than Graham Mertz, Clint. He's a lot better than Graham Mertz. Everybody went off about the Florida schedule this year. It's a beast again. It's at LSU. It's at Miami. Carson Beck.
Hey-o.
Home against Texas, at A&M, Mississippi State thrown in there, Georgia, at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, and then Tennessee at home and Florida State.
That's brutal.
You need Florida State to be in the toilet again. But I don't see 6-6 here. Like, I just don't see 6-6 on this schedule because I think there are some of these games. We mentioned LSU earlier. What kind of a team are they going to be? We mentioned Ole Miss earlier. What kind of a team are they going to be late in the season? I know that's on the road in Oxford. What's that game going to be like? I think Kentucky and Mississippi State should be wins. Obviously, the non-con games should be wins. Hopefully, you chalk up a win against Florida State. I think there's a couple more wins on the schedule. I'm not here to throw stones, Clint. But Florida probably going to beat Miami in Coral Gables in week 3 or week 4, whenever that game is.
Yep.
I don't know. He could have gone out undefeated against Florida. That was an option. That might not be the case anymore.
Being drafted in the 4th round was also an option. So,
well, that wasn't an option. That was a darn near guarantee. So,
that one shocked me. Let's get to a couple other teams. And this one, I think, of all on the list, these next 2 are the most shocking to me. And if I had to choose right now, I likely would hammer the over on both of these.
Okay.
Just for pure betting purposes, because it has to be a time where both these teams improve. South Carolina really has lost that much talent from a very good team that nearly made the college football playoff to be 6.5 win total. Daniel, what am I missing?
I'm sorry. Is the quarterback back?
He is.
He's the best quarterback in the SEC.
Oh, interesting.
They win in more than 6.5 games. Clint, I know the schedule's tough.
Okay.
I know the schedule's tough. They winning more than 6.5 games. Lenore Sellers is a dude.
He's a whole dang unit.
Yeah. He's a thing. And so this team, I like South Carolina.
They're going to start 3-0. Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vanderbilt.
They're definitely starting 3-0.
Okay, 3-0. Missouri, just okay. I like South Carolina's chances at that one. I don't care if they're at Missouri or not. Missouri is who we think they always are. So again, just like I'm done with A&M, I'm also done with Missouri. Kentucky,
Yeah.
don't trust them whatsoever. South Carolina gets them at home. Daniel, they could be 5-0 to start the season, and I'm not. That's not outside. That's not a crazy projection. That's literally very reasonable that they'd be 5-0. And you're telling me they got to take 2 more wins. LSU is up and down. Oklahoma, we've already talked about them. They may be improved, but likely not. Okay, then you really get into the meat of their schedule. Alabama, at Ole Miss, at A&M. But they got Coastal Carolina and Clemson to finish off the season. It's a rivalry game at the end of the season, which this last year was a banger. So I don't anticipate it being any different. And Coastal Carolina, if I just have those 7 games, the first 5 and the last 2, I'm feeling pretty dang good.
We're already over.
Okay.
But they're going to win some of the middle games, Clint.
Oh, gosh. I like something is weird. I love South Carolina with this over. And the last one, Auburn at 5.5. Now, again, they said, Auburn fans said, we're getting a quarterback in the transfer portal, and it's going to be exciting. And then they named it's Arnold. It's a reject from Oklahoma. A cast-off, benched reject.
Okay. Could we officially say that Hugh Freeze is really good at building a program 15 years ago before college football changed?
He was. Yeah.
And he's not good at that anymore.
But that's the thing, Daniel. It's not 15 years ago. As much as many people and listeners want it to be 15 years ago, it
ain't.
Okay.
Hugh Freeze is not it. I promise you. If Auburn goes 6-6, Hugh Freeze will be fired. That's going over the win total, Clint. If he goes 6-6, Hugh Freeze will be fired this year.
And Auburn fans, by the way, are hoping and praying for 6-6.
They are praying for a bowl game to fire their coach so that they get some extra practices, maybe get a new guy in, try to rally some of the recruits to stay. It's going to be a feeding frenzy.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Those are the season win totals. We're going to give you as the season approaches, as we get spring ball and G-Day under our belt, which, by the way, G-Day this year, Daniel, I don't know if you know when it falls in the schedule of events, but there's this beautiful thing called the Masters that happens. And G-Day is sandwiched.
Don't get me on a soapbox now at the end of the episode, Clint, because I've got a whole episode in me about how the University of Georgia is failing its patrons.
By the way,
we don't deserve another national championship until this gets fixed. Clint?
It's January 22nd, and Mike Bobo is still employed by the...
I don't care about Mike Bobo. Fix this. This is fixable, Clint. It's the damn Masters. We don't ask for a lot.
We don't. We ask for very few things. We have stopped asking for a lot of things. There's like 3 on the list that we ask for. Uninterrupted 3 days during the Masters is it. Like that's...
It is my job to host an everyday Georgia football podcast, Clint. I can tell you definitively I will be watching G-Day recorded. Do something, Georgia fans. Do something. If you were a real administration, you would have already fixed this.
He's called for the boycott.
I'm not.
He's rallying the people.
What if there was not a dang person in the stadium one time? Would that fix the problem, Clint? You think the AD might? You think Josh Brooks might say, "Well, we better move this game"? Yeah, he would.
Somebody right now with Masters tickets, offer them to Josh Brooks. Just take one for the team.
Josh Brooks can get Masters tickets whenever he wants.
I'm just saying.
Clint, shut your mouth. Somebody right now with Masters tickets who's still watching at 29 minutes into this podcast, offer them to Clint and I.
Yeah, give them to your boys.
You understand? Offer them to us.
He is Daniel. I am Clint. This is the Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. We'll be back later talking more Bulldogs. We'll see you guys then.
See ya.